Thank you, Ruth. Good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Town of Warren's Planning Commission. The date is Monday, July 14th. Is that Bastille Day? Yes. It is Bastille Day here in Warren, Vermont. And I'm calling the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is, are there any agenda changes? Hearing none, we will go forward to the second item on the agenda. Review and approve previous minutes. I don't see any minutes in the packet.
No, and that's because when the server died Friday morning, I didn't have a chance to get the minutes from where it lives out to you guys because I can't get at it.
Okay. The server died? What?
The storms Thursday evening with the power outages that came and went did something to our server, to the battery backup, surge protector, whatever, and that piece of equipment will not be until tomorrow afternoon. So Friday and today, I've been somewhat hamstrung as to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's why we're here, is because we don't have Wi-Fi in the municipal building. We do have Wi-Fi here with the library.
Okay.
So.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Then we'll move on to the next item. We'll go back, I guess next week, we'll have a couple sets of meetings, not next week, but in 2 weeks, we'll have 2 sets of minutes to approve. The third item on the agenda is general public comments. I don't see any members of the public present. So we'll move on to item 4. Sam Robinson, who I see is on the horn, and Ruth discussing A, information on feasibility funding options, B, discussion on the delineation for the neighborhood development area NDA application. Take it away, Sam Robinson and Ruth.
Sam, you're up and I'll help add things if I think I'd find anything you haven't already said.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for having me again, everyone. I just wanted to provide a little bit of an update based on our last discussion at the Planning Commission meeting that I attended about the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board Feasibility Fund, and then also some of the more recent developments with a couple other, well, really one other funding source that was recommended to us, and then later on I'll talk about the progress with the neighborhood development area application. But just to talk about what I've kind of been working on over the last couple of weeks. We did have a meeting with the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board in regard to the feasibility fund program that I discussed last time. To jog your memory, that program has a funding limit of up to $20,000 for a single site. And the main purpose of the program is to kind of answer the question, is this housing project feasible? There were a couple things. Jim attended that meeting with me. There were a couple things in the conversation with VHCB that stood out to me that I just wanted to point out. And it kind of boils down to, in general, it's still a very possible program that we could apply for in the future. The general consensus, talking to Elise, who was kind of the program director, is that we're not quite at a point with this project that we could apply through that program, mainly because even though it's called a feasibility program, they want to have some concrete information kind of from the get-go. They kind of want you to have an idea of what you might want to see there as far as like units of housing, maybe some sort of like, not a design, but kind of like style preferences, and then also an understanding of cost, which is kind of, in my mind, a little bit backwards because just because we are kind of trying to answer the question, is this feasible? So we don't necessarily have all those questions. We don't have answers to all those things at this point. Another thing that VHCB would be looking for is they would be looking for us to be leveraging other funding as well. And that doesn't mean that we have to have funding secured, but they would at least be looking, in order for an application through their program to be competitive, for us to have submitted applications to other feasibility fund programs. And then one other thing, which Dan, you got the ball rolling on kind of this third piece of information that VHCB would be looking for us to have, is we don't have to have an agreement with someone like Downstreet, or basically we don't have to have like a written contract with a developer or property manager such as Downstreet, but they like to know that you've at least had conversations with someone, and that they have an interest, kind of an expression of interest in our type of project. So it wouldn't have to be like set in stone, but they would want us to either talk to Downstreet or some other steward that could maintain the perpetual affordability clause, because that would be a stipulation of receiving Vermont Housing Conservation Board funding. We would at least need to have some sort of record of a conversation with someone like Downstreet, which we've set up a conversation. Well, Dan actually set up a conversation with Downstreet for this Thursday, I believe. So that's one item. Depending on how that conversation goes, we might be able to check off of our list. But a good thing that came from our conversation with Vermont Housing Conservation Board is, speaking about leveraging other funding, Elise suggested a different program through the Vermont Community Development Program. They offer planning grants, which oftentimes are used to assess feasibility of housing. There's a couple of good things about this program. One, the funding threshold is 3 times that of VHCB's Housing Feasibility Fund. So the smallest grants are $3,000, the largest grants are $60,000, and it only requires a 10% match that you can provide through in-kind services. So that match could be time that Ruth commits to the project. I'm assuming if I were helping with this project as well, that my labor could be considered as in-kind as well. So it's a higher funding limit and not much in the way of a match, especially considering that we can use a lot of our own labor for that match. And there's a couple steps. There's a couple things to consider as far as the Vermont Community Development Program goes. There's a environmental assessment that we can start at any point. It would basically be checking some boxes to prove to them that this planning grant would not involve any site work. So it would be a planning grant in earnest. We wouldn't be disturbing any ground, and it would essentially be kind of the like pre-NEPA. So just kind of checking off some boxes, noting that we weren't going to disturb any like historic resources or essentially break any ground. And that's something we could start immediately. They're finalizing their kind of online portal. So Nathan, who we spoke with, said he would let us know when that's done. But if we decide to move forward with this, that's something we could start immediately. The pre-application for this program would be due in November. And then the official application, we would be invited to submit an application by January, and then decisions would be made by next June. So good news is timing wise, it kind of works out. It's not something that we could be immediately funded for, but it gives us time to kind of figure out what we want to do, what exactly would be included, because we do have a higher funding limit. So there's potential that we could roll in more than what we could have initially done with the HCB planning grant. And then gives us time to reach out to some consultants and get an idea of what would be possible, how much could we put into this application, and then come up with a competitive application to be considered for funding. I think overall, my impression between the two programs that we've been looking at is this, we'll call it the VCDP grant, Vermont Community Development Program grant, is a lot more flexible. There's no in this case, we wouldn't have to have any expression of intent to manage the property through someone down like Downstreet. And it also leaves some opportunity for more like creative partnerships. Like if they do have income requirements, they would require that 51% of the housing units be rented at 80% area median income. So I can send some information on that to give you an idea of what that looks like. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but it's less stringent than calling it affordable housing. And it also makes it a little bit easier to facilitate some of those public-private partnerships. If we were to get VHCB funding, what Nathan explained to us is it essentially kind of immediately from the get-go disincentivizes any private developer from getting involved in the project because they would not really ever be able to see a return on investment. But there are also some covenants, that 80% area median income, that some of the housing units could still be attainable while a private developer could see a return on investment on a portion of those units. So it just keeps things open to different types of partnerships because I don't know if the Planning Commission has decided that they definitely want to partner with someone like Downstreet, but this program allows for more options, whereas VHCB would really be looking for that permanent affordability through someone like Downstreet. Ruth, anything that comes to your mind at this point?
Yeah, I have in my notes here that the full application is in March. I don't know what the January one is, but there may be another step. It could be a January, then a March. I
I
don't,
think you're probably right. I was just going off of memory, so it probably is March if you have that down.
yeah. And then June is when they make the awards.
Mhm.
The other thing that I really liked about this program that Nathan and Sam and I talked with about was that we can right now, and it doesn't cost us anything but a stamp, is putting RFPs out to get some ideas of costs up front. And I think that will be helpful as far as getting the brownfields done, and things like that. Um,
And
and
I
get,
also
go ahead.
I also
Uh,
think um, putting together an RFP was kind of Nathan's like Ruth said, the suggestion to us. One, because it gives you an understanding of cost, but also it makes sure that we are all on the same page as far as like what do we actually want this project to be. And putting together an RFP is kind of like a conceptual exercise, I think is a great idea before even starting to write the application, just because we know exactly what we're asking
And
for.
not to sound too bureaucratic, but there's also just like even the RFI, and I don't know, but like to be even more about just information, where we don't need to even ask for a proposal.
Yeah.
So that may be a distinction without a difference in this context. I just wanted to point it out. I think it's a great approach.
Mhm.
And I'll just I really appreciate all the research on this, Sam. So yeah, keep going. This is awesome.
Yeah,
And
and I know he showed us the graph as far as the income thing, which to me looked better than I expected. And it does a lot, I mean, the thing that I think we want to keep as many options as possible as far as, is it just obtainable housing, or is it also maybe workforce housing, which is a little bit different in my mind to some degree. It still has to be affordable. But with workforce housing, it brings in one thing I know Jim Crafts brought up, and that is getting partnerships from whether it be Sugarbush or some of the property people, that take care of places around the valley, landscapers, whatever.
I think it's about full-time families, not J6, J9 visa
No,
holders, whatever.
exactly. But how about even some of our older people who are looking to downsize that want to be here,
I
that
think
can
maybe the town could
contribute to
have
the
an incentive
community.
program where we say, like, if you take your current house and put a covenant on it, and if you promise to sell it to another full-time resident, then yeah. But like, I think that there's a difference between the RFP for the work we want done in the short term to get information and
Right.
these big policy choices. So I would argue for having an RFP. The word like brownfield makes a lot of sense. Like, we want to do an assessment of the viability for any number of things, but we don't need to start having conversations about the nature of affordable housing. That'll only make this process go longer.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm interested in figuring out like the scale of what we're looking to provide for that lot, you know. So like in order to really get information, like technical information of what that property can house, we must first kind of have an idea of what we need there and have what we need there more or less fit that lot to a
Well, I
degree,
mean, there's
to
things
not
like
an
what is this
astronomical degree.
developable? So, like, we could say we want to assess it for septic. That doesn't say like what kind of housing goes there. Like, that's just something, right? And it may be that there's a lot. It's like part of the work is just a document survey. Everything has already been done. We want to do sort of a basic assessment of like what is viable here,
Yeah.
and we can have a conversation about the other things. But I think that there's a basic sort of like what's even possible. Because guess what? The reason we have this parcel is because of one of those issues for the garage. It
Yeah.
had nothing to do with the garage. It's just all of a sudden there was like a foundational issue. And it's like, that's fine, but like, let's just get to the reality of what we have to like even think about before we talk about, senior versus workforce housing or partnering with Sugarbush. You know,
Yeah, it just goes back to sort of what Sam was mentioning of like us presenting some general framework of like how much housing we see going there potentially, how do we?
And I think one idea I had when talking with Nathan, when he was saying like you guys should put together a request for information or a request for proposal as like a conceptual exercise. I was like, I don't even know from a cost standpoint, like I work in planning, but I don't really know I don't know what we could fit within $60,000.
Mhm.
But through other projects that I'm working on at the planning district, I've worked with a couple different consultant groups, like SE Group. I've worked with Fuss and O'Neill, and I was thinking about just reaching out to some of those guys. And it's not uncommon for like grant applications will be like, hey, could you give us like a straw man budget for insert project here? And I was thinking about just reaching out to a couple of those folks and see like $60,000. This is kind of what the planning commission has in mind as far as like putting housing on this site. What do you think would be good steps, given the challenges and opportunities
Mhm.
for this grant? Um, so that's an option as well. Like if um, just to see kind of what makes sense from like a sequencing standpoint, and then also from a budget standpoint, what we could fit in to set us up for success moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe there'll be some answers from Down Street also on and
That's true. And I know
that.
you had a conversation with Keziah a couple weeks ago, and she mentioned like market study. Um, I read the minutes, but I can't remember exactly what she mentioned. But I know
Yeah,
that
we sort
there's,
of we went over like the process and the map, like the general map of how things go from A to Z, which was really helpful. Um, but now if we can get some slightly more specific information regarding the potential of that site, to help guide us a little bit, that'd be really helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks for the update, Sam. I wished I was at that last meeting, but I'd love to be in on the Thursday meeting. What time is it? It's at 1:30 on Thursday with Down Street. Is that right?
Let me check. Dan, do you remember off the top of your head?
I believe it's one, and I think I should expand it to include at least Adam and Ruth and see if we can get a recording for everybody else. We have Sam and Joshua, Jim and myself,
Okay.
but I
And
think,
what time on Thursday?
I think it's Thursday at 1, I'm pretty
what
sure.
is the topic for this group?
The topic will be, discussion, sort of learning about how Down Street, I think, would approach a site like that, what advice they could give us. Would they be interested in a project like that? What kind of projects might be possible? Just, continuing the learning, um,
It's
uh,
11
with a developer, I would say. So go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
it's a 11 to noon. I just found it.
Oh, I'm sorry, 11 to noon. Thank you.
Yeah, no
Okay.
problem. And I can also like it I'll plan on reaching out to some folks as I just mentioned to kind of get an idea of I also reached out to Nathan who we spoke with recommended I reach out to someone named Sarah Waite. She's helping Granville with a project that received funding through this program. So I sent her an email just to see if I could get more information about the angle that they approached their project from and how much, what they decided to go for funding for. So I'll get information from her. If I schedule any meeting with Sarah, if I hear back from her, then I'll be sure to loop everyone in. Likewise, if I hear back from like SE Group or anyone like that, if you're interested in being a part of that, I can make sure to send you the invite.
And I will, thank you for the reminder. I will ask if we can record that Thursday meeting. so everyone can,
Now, are they the ones that are setting
they
it
set
up?
it up.
Are
yeah,
they doing it as a Zoom?
as a Teams.
Or as a Teams?
Yeah. But it's got recording potential, so hopefully they're willing. I can't promise
Yeah,
they're willing,
yeah.
but
yeah,
if they're
okay.
willing, I'll make sure that everyone has a copy. If they don't, if they're not willing, we'll just designate a couple good note takers and try to get everything we can and share the notes broadly.
Mhm.
But I think having Adam and Ruth there would be a minimum, a good idea. Yeah.
Are we done in this topic? Are you ready for the
That's
next? Yeah, are you, I think that covered everything, Sam, that I recall, that I've got in my notes here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks for
Sam
keeping thanks for keeping the ball rolling on that. It's a really critical piece of our, priorities
yeah.
Yeah, Sam, one thing I would just add, I just want to reiterate, yeah, like it's really awesome. One thing, it's sort of a thread that I, had on one of my 1,000 lists and never really did anything with, but I would imagine you come along in the course of kind of researching this stuff is sort of the like local development corporation or the like non-government entity that sort of comes together to help make something like this happen. I mean, hey, look, we just saw it with uh, the parcel across from the East Warren Community Market, which is, I don't think just an individual, it's like a group of people. So if you see like other grant proposals or things that involve that kind of group, and I'm not talking about a for-profit developer, this would be more like something other than the planning commission of like local people who want to be part of this. I'd just be interested in models of those organizations that have worked. Because I think in Northfield, there was something that got something going, but it may be more commercial than I'm realizing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd just be curious if you've seen stuff that works, and maybe you know stuff off the top of your head. I just wanted to flag it.
I don't really know off the top of my head, but I could definitely keep my eyes open. I mean, the closest thing that I think, at least locally, was the Housing Coalition, but that's no longer.
Well,
But
this would be something. Yeah, this would be more about or organized around the development of a project, less like a
less,
topic, right?
yeah. Mhm.
But and there's also these more community market. Like I don't know like how that even happens, but like it's just interesting to think like the city or the city town owns that parcel and it's run by whatever organization that is. I confess I don't quite understand, but I think it's
Yeah.
either community
Roots
run or
work.
co-op or something ish.
Yeah.
So like it stands to reason, like if we wanted, like, is that, and like there's just co-ops in the valley. So I'm just curious about that. This is less for you, and I'm now just ranting. I'm sorry. Anyway, great job. Thank
No,
you.
you're good. You're good. Um, well, yeah, I think it is an interesting idea, and I can definitely keep my eyes open. And I think the good news is I think this VCDP grant, if down the road that type of model was wanting to be explored, it would be possible. So I think this is a good place to start. Um,
Thank you, Sam. And I think one of the things, since we mentioned housing coalitions, I do think one of the topics that we may have to explore is, do we need a Warren Housing Coalition to be part of the process? And I think that might be interesting. I mean, I know in talking to other housing advocates, they have said you need a vehicle for community support and you need to demonstrate community support. And a housing coalition is a great way to do it. But we can, as we talk to Downstreet, as we talk to other players in this space, I guess we'll hear about whether that's an important thing to stand up, to try to find volunteers to sit on and to weigh in on, a mechanism for the community. In other words, a mechanism for the community to weigh in on what sort of development they'd like to see there.
Yeah, gives us feedback and.
Gives us feedback through, I mean, the planning commission, the select board might be other organs, but a community, the housing coalition has potential to be sort of the voice of the community. So just something we should bear in mind, I think, going
We
forward.
managed to pull together a historical group again, so who knows?
Yeah. And Sam, I guess the next item on the agenda is STRs and Granicus, so you
No,
may want to.
NDA.
Oh, NDA?
Yeah, The neighborhood development area,
Oh, sorry, that we just
that
covered,
was B.
we
just
covered A. I'm
but not
sorry,
B.
I beg your pardon. We're
That's
still
okay.
on 4B, discussion on the delineation for the neighborhood development area.
Sounds
Sam,
good.
yeah, Sam has been working on this and he's got some preliminary things, but a lot of these maps that, there we go. Way to go, Sam.
Trying to minimize this. There
Here,
we go.
pass it on to you, especially the first few, and there's some on the back sides too, but.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, oh, go ahead, Ruth.
Well, for those of you who don't know, the neighborhood development area, we have a designated village in Warren Village. And the next circle around that is the neighborhood development area. And it's going to change going forward. So we're the last one to get in on this. But it does provide for some good things for us. Don't ask me exactly what they all are, but I think it hopefully will help with things that we can get from the state when we're going to do any sort of development. So the circle that Sam has up there is his preliminary circle, pretty much, right, Sam?
Yeah, so the NDA can basically, what we're looking at here, this is one of the first maps, is so we have the designated village center here in red, and then for designated village centers, an NDA can be within a quarter-mile buffer of a village center. So this yellow dash line is what's referred to as the neighborhood planning area. So typically, NDAs or neighborhood development areas fall within that quarter-mile buffer. They can extend outside of the quarter mile if the town is able to make essentially a compelling argument as to why that is a logical extension outside of the neighborhood development area. In Warren's case, I don't think that that is necessary. We recently did one of these for Waitsfield as well, and Waitsfield was actually an interesting case because the NDA was almost entirely out of the neighborhood planning area. So that was actually an interesting one because it just based on the natural constraints. But basically, as Ruth said, there's some benefits to having a neighborhood development area. A couple of the examples are Act 250 regulations are lessened a little bit. Wastewater fees are capped for properties within the NDA. There's also some just permitting fees that are less, streamlined permitting processes. So for a community that's looking to develop infill housing, it can be a really useful tool. So I just wanted to give you an update as to some of the mapping
Well,
that happened. What's that?
let me just ask the obvious then, because we were just talking about the parcel that's next to the red splotch.
So,
So, explain to me how we're going to get it in the red splotch.
well, so it
I'm
doesn't have
teasing
to.
you. I'm just curious. Like, just if you can give me a little bit more of the like pluses, minuses, it seems like to the extent we want to develop, we want to encourage development, the benefits of the neighborhood designation area support sort of more streamlined development. Is that the takeaway?
Yes, that is kind of the takeaway. And thankfully, the the town garage parcel here, you'll see later on, but it is actually included in the NDA. So this property would benefit from this designation. There are a considerable number of natural constraints, and that's one of the requirements of this application. So I went ahead and created some
I was
maps.
talking about the designated village center. I'm sorry. I misspoke. But yeah, that's great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was confused. No, you're right. Please continue.
Okay, gotcha. So they ask you to map things like conserved areas. Oh, I don't know let me do single page. So they ask you to map conserved areas. They ask you to map steep slopes, which is represented by kind of this orangey brown. And then you have to map all the standard things like river corridor, flood hazard overlay. But to make it simpler, I've combined everything as just a natural constraints layer. So I took every individual layer that they asked that you include as a natural constraint, and I included it as a single merged layer here. So as you can see, there's quite a few natural constraints in Warren, but the good news is there's still a couple areas. My eyes are drawn to here and very conveniently right here. Also, there's a big portion where the school is where I don't anticipate much development, but I went ahead and included it anyway. A kind of questionable area, and I have two different maps that I'll show you next, is I had potentially slated kind of this area on the left as part of the NDA just because it is within the neighborhood planning area and there are pockets in which there's no steep slopes, but generally it might be a hard argument to make to the state. So we're either looking at this kind of light blue I have as the proposed NDA. I feel very confident that this kind of northeastern section will be included. I also feel very confident about this kind of southwestern portion, and we'll just have to kind of see about this. Might be worth including, just my eye gets drawn to like here, and I know there's some arty development here, so if someone wanted to add on. Oh, actually, one thing I realized, and this goes to another thing I need to talk about, I'm still waiting on updated shape files from Brian Voigt at Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission. I didn't realize this, but I actually got the zoning districts wrong. So now that I said that, I actually don't think, based on the current zoning districts, that this portion could be included, because I think this is in like rural residential technically now. Another,
Well, it will be, yeah.
okay, it will be. Another thing that will change is up in this northern portion of the village, based on the newly proposed land use and development regulations, this would also be eligible to be included in the NDA, and we thought could be a logical extension. Very small portion outside of the neighborhood planning area, so I don't foresee any issue, but there's definitely some development that could happen right here along Ellen Lane. So essentially, we'd be kind of looking at, based on the natural constraints and the zoning densities of the new regulations, we'd be looking at this area, and a little bit of this north area out of town as being portions of the proposed NDA.
Yeah, I like where all this is going. Or any type of work, I think regardless of whether or not anything happens around Ellen Lane, that the intersection is like a big concern for a lot of folks in Warren Village and just folks who drive through there every day, the connection between Warren Village and Route 100. So would this NDA help us in any way to somehow, for lack of better words, fix that intersection?
I think it could, in the sense of kind of like creating more continuity between, like, hopefully if it were imposed, it would essentially, if infill development did occur there, it would kind of become like an extension of the village almost, and having complete streets is a requirement of this application. So I had to identify like all the existing pedestrian infrastructure. So we could make a call out to like, if there are any plans. I know in the town plan, I think I just submitted a bike and pedestrian grant for the active transportation corridor, and I saw in the town plan that it actually calls for striping leaving out of town. So we could make some sort of nod to that in this application and explain that I think also as part of the active transportation corridor, we're hoping to get a crosswalk here. So just indicating that there are plans to kind of bridge that gap. And I know VTrans is looking at doing some sort of study. So I don't think it would provide any like concrete benefits to helping that, but I think it could just strengthen the argument in a sense. Like if we're looking for infill development in this area of Warren Village.
Yeah, I feel like it would go hand in hand if you
Yeah.
want to do.
The, just as a little bit of added information, because of the concerns around, I would say primarily Ellen Lane and West Hill Road, and because folks, I think, who are opposing the relocation of the garage have pointed to safety as, although I don't think the Von Braun the Von Braun entrance and exit is has much better sight lines. than Ellen Lane. Nevertheless, people are pointing to safety issues around the town garage. And I know the select board has been talking to V-Trans and would have liked to have a solution to V-Trans sooner rather than late, work with V-Trans, come up with this sort of probably a traffic slowdown solution, really, and maybe reorienting the streets a little bit. But I think that's got to wait on the town garage. It's contingent on the town, according to V-Trans, the town garage project has to go first. And they want to understand what's happening with the town garage before they put safety around some of those roads, particularly Adam, I agree, Ellen Lane is kind of nasty.
Yeah.
Sam?
Yep.
Oh, I wanted the map.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go back to that map. That's why I'm pointing. I've got my pen pointing at it for the folks here.
Yeah.
Okay. This section over here,
So the bottom,
the
very
bottom,
bottom,
yeah. Where is Main Street come down to 100?
So
Is it down too far? Is it further down here?
I can go to a
Or is it
different
over
map.
here?
So this is, you can see the road a little bit better here.
Okay.
So
And so over
Kinda
here,
exit.
okay, all right. I just want to give you some historical information here. On Main Street, that last house is yellow on the left before you get to Snow Road, as you're going south. There's a large parcel there, and there's some, there was a subdivision that gave us several lots, I think 5 of them up above that are actually accessed off of Fuller Hill. But the DRB specifically asked, and I think Don Swain was part of it, that if this property was subdivided, what could be infill behind that yellow house up in here?
so can they see your pen, Ruth?
Probably not.
Ruth
Are we
is pointing
talking-
to really the very bottom of the
See what
yellow
this big
dotted line.
white, this white batch is here? There you go. Down to go down. This big white batch here, right here, that area. Yeah, you're to the left of it. Go to the right.
over here.
That spot, yeah, that spot there.
Okay, let me see. So that could be an extension. I mean, it actually kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of natural constraints.
I mean, there are some slopes behind, but I think we figured out that there could be, some development kind of arced right around that mass there behind it.
Yeah.
And I know it's on a piece of paper somewhere, and I think that should be included. And that probably makes more sense in some respect than what I talked to Sam about, and that was extending up Dump Road because of where the wastewater is, and the fact that I just have this feeling that, I mean, what we did when we changed our zoning regs on Dump Road was the left-hand side going up, kept it at 1 acre, and the right hand, because of conservation between Dump and Brook Road, that was conservation and was really steep. I guess I'm trying to think really far ahead that if for any reason that horse farm gets sold, that's a significant piece of property that could be, because of its relationship to the
Off of
village,
the one, if
off
you're,
a dump on the left there.
if you're going up to
Yeah, going up
the
Dump Road.
airport.
Yeah.
Yep, I know.
So I don't know whether that should be included in the neighborhood designated development area or
It's
not.
pretty far up Dump Road though, isn't it?
It's
It's about
not-
halfway up.
I wouldn't even say halfway, maybe a quarter to a third,
Okay,
but it's a significant piece of property. She did have it on the market at one time.
yeah.
I'm just trying to look
No,
ahead.
I appreciate the thought.
The only
So
the only
your question is, how far up Dump Road could we fit within the NDA?
Yeah,
Sam, do you have a thought on that?
the only question I had, Ruth, is I thought when you came by, and you and I were looking at this with Josh, I thought we looked at that, and my recollection was that maybe the zoning didn't allow for it. Do you know what
Yeah.
the density is there? I think it has to be a minimum of 4 units per acre.
Which could be done because it's a minimum 1 acre lot, if that were sold and broken up. And you could do duplexes, you could do, any sort of PUD that satisfies that 4 per 1 acre.
Okay, so maybe it could be.
Yeah, I'll double check that, but I just think that we wouldn't have left it 1 acre if we didn't want some sort of infill in there.
Mhm. Well,
I'm beginning to think more and more about pulling the circle on the western side of 100, closer to 100. I have a feeling that may not really be,
So instead of that egg-like shape, it would become more like a canoe or something. You know, like a canoe. Okay,
more like a dirigible.
a dirigible, Led Zeppelin. Okay,
I don't
All
know.
right.
Anyways, we wanted to share this with you just so you'd have an idea. Sam and I are trying to get together for a preliminary with, Jake, is it?
yeah, Jacob Hemrick.
Yeah,
Uh,
Jacob. And we've
so
got to talk about dates on that because I saw the email this afternoon.
yeah, I'll follow up with you about that, Ruth. I think Thursday would most likely work for me. But so really the next steps would be this is just like a pre-application meeting with Jacob. In reality, we pretty much have the application done, so we'll kind of be just like going over it with him, see if there's any red flags. I don't, based on having done one of these before, it seems like it should be a pretty straightforward process, even if we were to include some of those outside areas that we just discussed, like
Okay.
this down here, this would be really easy. We could look into this dump road parcel as well. I think there should be no issue. And if anyone's interested in seeing the Google Doc that I have written up as far as the application itself goes, happy to share that. Folks can leave comments or chime in on areas that I may have forgot information.
We have
Um,
a printout.
If you'd be all right with it, if you could just make it so anyone can do that, I'd love to email it to a bunch of people I know. I just think there's a lot of people that like will read it right before they join a Zoom. I don't
yeah,
know if like what you have is the right document to do that, but if you're open to that, I know I have a group of people I email that I'd love to send it to.
definitely. Yeah, happy to share it. It's just a Google Drive or a Google Doc, so
Yeah.
I could send that link to you and you can share it with whoever you
I
want.
just want to make sure if you see like random hippopotamus or whatever show up
Yeah,
that you're
no,
like making, what did you do? Okay.
that's fine.
can
Um,
I ask,
Could be Adam. I mean, it could be Adam. I'm just saying, but like,
yeah.
can I ask one question, which is, Ruth, you correctly observed that under our new zoning, the western or the parcels across Route 100.
Yeah,
So what do you think that, like, what's the timing of when realistically our new zoning will go into effect? And when this and when the NDA, not the grant, the NDA application goes in?
the NDA will be hopefully accepted and finalized, what, by September,
I think
October,
I think it's October.
October? And by then we should have the new regs,
Okay, all right.
God willing.
Yeah, I was just wondering if for some reason the new regs were not in by then, or is there a benefit to delaying the implementation of the new regs
No,
further
no. No, but we could sign in blood that we will make an amendment once we get them adopted, if necessary.
You see what,
But I
I'm
understand
saying,
what
though,
you're
if we wanted,
Yeah.
if it was really important to have that part across Route 100 included in the NDA, I mean, let's face it, we've delayed the looters for years now, so I'm just wondering, do they ask if your land use regulations are about to change? Are they curious about the new draft, or do they only want to see what's currently in place?
Um, I based a lot of the application on the newly
Okay,
proposed
then
ones.
never mind,
Um,
question withdrawn.
but and also honestly, with the level of steep slopes on the western side, they might go for it, but they also might not, just because there were a lot of steep slopes. So I don't really
So,
know.
okay,
Hmm.
don't let me
Yeah.
put a, I don't
Yeah,
want to put a,
I
I don't
would-
want to put a
yeah.
stick in your spokes.
I
Moving
thought
on.
it might be a good idea, just because it just seems so much kind of close, it's so close to the village despite 100.
Yeah.
And yet, when I really look at it, there could be some infill, but not enough to really probably make a difference.
Got it. Okay, anything else on the NDA?
Not for me.
Are you looking for feedback? I mean, you've offered to share it with us. It sounds like Ruth is working with you.
Mhm.
Are you happy with the level of support you're getting from the planning commission? Or let me know if you, put it this way, if you feel like you need more support or any support from the planning commission beyond Ruth, please let me know.
Will do. Yeah, I don't feel like I need support, but I also want to leave the door open for anyone that wants to be a part of it. So if anyone wants to be a part of it, you're more than welcome to, but I think Ruth and I should be able to handle it as well.
Awesome.
And I think it's important for the planning commission to know what we're doing. You know,
Agreed.
that's what this was
Totally
really a
agree.
lot, all about.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's some two solid regions in there that are looking.
All right.
All right, thank you,
Now,
Sam, and we'll
do you
touch
wanna-
base in the morning.
Well, Sam may want to stay on to hear about Granicus and
Oh.
STRs, our next item.
Well,
Who's ever delivering the message on Granicus and STRs? Ruth is.
moi,
So Sam, you may find this interesting. I'm
I
sure
don't
I'll
really
find.
Yeah,
have a
no,
whole lot,
stick around.
I don't have a whole lot to say, unfortunately.
No.
Other than the fact that, the STR,
Ordinance?
ordinance, has been brought back to us from VLCT.
Hallelujah.
And I asked Rebecca
Mhm.
whether I could share it with my PC, but the select board hasn't actually looked at it yet. And they should tomorrow night, I
Okay.
believe. So I guess they want to look at it and have conversation about it first, since it's in their hands at this point anyways.
Okay,
So I will try to get that shared to you as soon as possible.
okay, thank you.
Jim has some questions about it, and because I haven't been able to get into it, because I haven't had Wi-Fi on my computer to really kind of look at things. I mean, just Friday and today, I just haven't been able to get that kind of stuff done, which I normally would have before this meeting. I think they have increased it. I can't remember what the percentage was as to how many they've come up with. I think they have flushed out some more.
Of what?
Of short-term rentals, as far as identification, is what I'm talking about.
Granicus says?
Yes.
Oh, good.
And their website, I've only just briefly looked at. You may have even looked at it a little bit more than I have, Jim. And there's been discussion about, at least Rebecca made a comment to me that there's conversation about who's gonna take care of Granicus.
So, and that's what I want to address.
Yeah. And right now, it's kind of been Rebecca as, because to me, the STR ordinance in Granicus is not a zoning thing. It's really a town ordinance. It's not a zoning ordinance, even though we do have it.
It's not a zoning ordinance.
Right, even though we refer to STRs and have some zoning language in the zoning regulations, it's not a zoning
It
thing.
is not.
It's a town thing.
Yes.
And, Julie has been very involved in it because it makes a lot of sense for them as listers to know what's going on and who's renting and who isn't and that kind of thing. And I'm obviously interested to know what's going on, as is the town as a whole. So there's some concern about who's actually going to take the ball on this.
Well, I've always thought if you set the fee high enough, you can actually hire someone to do the work. But if you set the fee really low, well, then you can't hire additional staff to do the work.
So there's been some discussion, so we'll have to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
The
So,
floor is yours.
all right, so Devin reached out to me after the last select board meeting, because I brought that up at the meeting, was Okay, look, we're at the point now where there were the 4 or 5 questions posed by the Mad River Planning District. Granicus will help you answer these questions. Okay. All right. Who did their homework and what are the answers to those questions?
Right.
Or are we not there yet? And so I think we're lacking from really that the person, the instructor saying, okay, give me your homework, right? I mean, no one's really asking the questions, okay, are we answering what we want to do when we intended with the software?
Mm.
So we should think about who's going to do that. And do we have any volunteers? I'll help, or I'll do it one way or the other. I mean, if someone else is not interested, I'm interested in that in a little bit, so I'll help there. The more mechanical part of it, the infrastructure is, okay, look, we got to put letters into tax bills. We got to, there's still kind of a ton of work left to do. And we don't really have a head count assigned to it. So Devin brought up that they had budgeted for half a head count or some number of hours to help with looters coming on board. And that position is not being staffed right now because we don't have the new looters. Now, she offered up that let's think about, can we redirect that budget? We've already budgeted for it. Can we redirect that to, let's go finish Granicus. Let's go identify the rest of the 20% of the people that quote unquote advertise, but we don't know who they are. All right, so let's assign that, as well as, are there some, targeted answers or summaries of data that we want to see done? And I think there's a person in mind that they would do that with. And I told them I'll bring it back to the planning commission because I want to know, does anybody else want to do this? I mean, I'm more than willing to go do other things. So I was going to kind of offer up.
Do this, meaning work with the select board?
Work with the select board, work with whoever they bring on board to say, okay, go in and kind of, okay, this is starting to make sense. Look, we're at 5%. Yeah, we're getting ready to, okay, let's go talk to the select board. We're ready to send letters out. That kind of,
I mean, my reaction, Jim, is if you're willing to do that, I mean, my thought is, God bless you, please.
Yep.
Yes. But I want to make sure there are some other people that were interested in this topic, and I want to make sure.
Oh, I'm definitely interested in this topic. Yeah.
Well, then but you have to do the work too.
Well, I think we can all be interested in topics, right? I mean, I think you don't have to, I think we are all interested in the topic. But I think you said you're interested if people want to do this, and if not, you'll do it. That's different than you want to do it. So I'm happy to do this. I wanted to point out I have not spoken with Granicus directly. And like that, I just would like to understand this application because every time it comes up, there seems to be continuing confusion. And I was invited to a meeting, and then that meeting, whatever didn't happen or whatever happened. But I would love to participate in understanding the current path we're on. The other thing is I wrote a set of requirements for the Warren website. I walked all of you through it, and I sent it to Rebecca. And to the extent we're looking at creating interactive tools on a website that support town functions, I wanted to point out the intersection with the website itself. And so I'm not saying this should slow down because of that. I just think that's important. But yeah, I'm happy to do the work, but I'm also really excited that you've made this much progress and don't want to fix something that's not broken. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to sort of jump in, and certainly I'm eager to engage and learn about some of these tech things that continue, I think, to be confusing, but I also don't want to complicate stuff.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful, Jim, that you're raising your hand. I'm grateful that Macon's raising his hand, and I think you're right. That, the hard part is doing the work. I mean, it's spending the time going through the data and probably driving around town and saying where.
Well, and I want to answer the questions. How many do we have?
Right,
How active are they? Okay, what's the add rate? What's the subtract rate? I mean,
right.
those are pretty
Seasonal-
important in
seasonal
our,
changes, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's great. I don't, to be honest, like, what interested me was getting an ordinance done.
Yeah.
The data analysis portion uh, is fascinating, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results, but I'm not really the data analyzer that way, so.
okay.
Jim, cool. So Jim, just to jump on this, on the data analysis, like I think that's super cool. And like, again, I want to help, but like, I'm glad you're doing it. One thing that I started on, if it ever becomes relevant to your work, was looking at the homestead data for all of the properties in Warren and looking at the grand list data and joining them because they declare the use of the property. Maybe I told you this already in our last meeting. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not going to repeat myself. Then if that ever becomes relevant or you want to talk just general like the data model for Warren housing, which could be kind of cool in terms of like how we're looking at all this housing across. And Sam, I know you think about this. Like, I love this stuff, but I also know the more it cooks in the kitchen, sometimes the slower it goes. So really excited you're plowing ahead with it.
And I also just wanted to chime in here. If you guys need support, I know the planning district, we had allocated time to help with that piece of the puzzle. Not saying we have to, but if you guys want help, then we had planned on it and we're more than willing to support. And as far as like the analysis goes, we're happy to help in any way that would be
And
beneficial.
the planning, I think the planning district's angle was really, what is the impact of short-term rental? Sort of this macro question. What is the impact of short-term rental platforms or short-term rentals on our long-term housing and rental markets? So that's probably what I thought you were offering to do, Sam. Are you offering to do more than that? Did I-
Sam's asleep.
Um,
Oh, there he is.
I think that was kind of, I think you're right, the kind of the core question, but I imagined, we did like that kind of platform evaluation memo.
Right.
I envisioned some sort of memo similar to that, like after having a year of data, this is what we found. But also, if you guys have an interest in doing that, then again, we're here to help. So like if you kind of have your own charge and vision, then that we totally support that as well, but we also want to be of service if we can.
Yeah, I think,
Sorry, Jim, I guess my thought on this is like, the reality is sort of the genesis of the ordinance came out of the planning commission. The emphasis came out of the planning commission. But at a certain point, the select board took over and, I've lost my engagement in it. You, Jim, have continued, to your credit, to proactively engage in this.
But, so here's where I'm struggling, is that, we don't have a good vision on this. And I'm being frank, and
Yeah.
I'm as much to blame as anybody, because, hey, step up and give us one, right? I mean,
Right.
don't just say you don't have one without offering something up. And we could have, what I'm wrestling is, we could have 3 or 4 efforts of, I want to see what this looked and how it impacts this, and somebody else wants to look at this impact to this.
Right.
And I'm not signing up for that, right? I'm not signing up to field all questions and answer all questions.
Right.
I'm gonna sign up to, okay, look, we kind of intended for the Mad River Planning District's 5 or 6 questions. Okay, how does it impact housing? Can we tell?
Mhm.
How many do we have? How active are they? And do we want to continue as kind of, my own personal opinion is we should be thinking about this as a revenue source.
Yes.
To staff, someone to do the job, do the work, and maybe something else. Now, other people may totally disagree with that, that's fine, but I think of it like that. I want to be clear about that, is I think that there could be something useful. The rest of the work, I'm a little hesitant because, I'm not really interested in creating the vision. You know, I'm a mechanic, so I'll go in and help you build the vision, but
And by the vision, what do you, when you
what are
say?
what are we really trying to do here as far as, okay, yep, short-term rentals impact housing. Do they impact housing in a way that we can influence? Don't know. So what are we gonna do about it? That's the vision I'm looking for, is that, you know, beyond just counting them and saying, okay, yep, and you're paying your registration fee, you're good. And identifying them, I'm a little worried we're kind of out in front of ourselves here, is that we really needed a plan before we started to say, okay, analyze the data. Okay,
I mean, I think
So-
from all the discussions I remember, the first step is identifying how many units there are, where they are, and the type or types of housing they represent.
yeah,
And even from that, those kind of 3 data points, I think that is amenable to a policy discussion
okay,
that
yeah,
you're welcome to be a part of or not be a part of. There will be a lot of people who want to get in that policy discussion. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
that's,
understand.
in some ways, that's frankly, to my mind, it's easier to get in a policy discussion for, at least for me, than it is for me to,
The nuts and bolts.
trying to identify this and that and working with data sets. So I think I wouldn't worry about I think the policy discussion
Okay,
will flow out of the clear picture of the STR market in Warren.
okay, well, so I'll go spend some time with the data. I'll help with whoever the select board decides to kind of, be our infrastructure support person. I'll help them and try to help them, however I can. And then beyond that, I'll come back to this team and Macon and say, okay, we think we're ready for, what do we want to know? And, are we ready to go live with a real letter and that kind of stuff? So that will take us probably, a month and a half.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
me, can I ask some clarifying questions? If that's okay, or whenever, just let me know when there's a moment.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay, so are you proposing, like, my understanding was that the short-term rental ordinance was being reviewed by the town lawyers. That was
No.
where the select board was.
That was the ordinance that was being reviewed by the lawyers at,
So they were
VLCT.
considering passing it, and then there was conversation, and then they were gonna get the lawyers to look at it? Or is there a different dependency in terms of it being put into place?
That's complete, right? So the lawyers have reviewed it, and now it's under
this.
review by the select board again.
It just came
Got it.
back to the select.
Came back
Great,
last week.
okay.
Last week.
So if they're looking at this ordinance, like, I wanted to understand how that process connects to this, because I just want to make sure I understood that. The second piece is the ordinance at the beginning, I think, tries to address some of the things that you're talking about, which I think are incredibly reasonable. I want to first say that, like, anyone who's like looking at this, not just the sort of short-term ordinance, like, should understand the context, but like, that's where we should improve it. Or if there's somewhere else, like, I want to help with that part for sure. But what I'm trying to understand is, you just sort of, and I could have misheard you, Jim, and so please just help me if I misunderstood. Is you're sort of articulating some questions that are reasonable questions, but it sounds like as a threshold to whether we should do the ordinance. And for me,
Oh,
like,
No,
okay,
no,
thank you. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just over speaking. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, no, the ordinance, as far as I'm concerned, that's a totally separate subject about what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
The data.
Granicus and the data. And the
Got it.
data's out there, right? They went out, they scraped it up. And the ordinance just is, okay, now get people to self-report.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm getting
that's-
confused with,
that's
Jen,
an
is like
unfortunate-
Granicus is also doing the web form, to help implement the ordinance. And that's the part I just want to laser beam on that because that's not what you're talking
Yeah.
about, which is like,
No,
so
no,
when I
I'm not-
jumped in earlier, I think that's why I was a little, and I apologize. Like what I'm saying is on that, just like understanding how this is going to make like, the city administrator's job easier. Like let me help bird dog that part while you're looking at data research. I think I'm understanding that a little bit, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine, making, and so that probably is better taken up with the select board than us, than the planning.
Roger.
I think, that's where I think it falls, because the ordinance is out there, it's been reviewed, okay, now Granicus was supposed to help us kind of craft and put it together as a form. Did that really work? What does it look like now?
Right.
That's the call I want to be on. Yeah.
Again, for the umpteenth time, I will say, I think it's very unfortunate that the ordinance was not finalized at roughly the same time we were hiring Granicus. That's it. That was, in my opinion,
We kind of,
we screwed the pooch a little bit. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
But I think, Jim, what you're saying is nevertheless, Granicus is able to obtain a lot of data.
absolutely.
So even in the ordinance would make it, I think, once we have that ordinance and we're getting people sending in their applications, I think it will make things even easier to analyze, but there's still data, lots of data to analyze now.
Exactly.
So I think that's the big picture of what's going on.
Understood. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I was a little slow there. Yeah. Thank you.
No, it's confusing,
no,
and
that's fine.
the timing is, again, for the umpteenth time, unfortunate. But it is what it is.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna leave it out there, again, if so Sam, Macon, anybody that wants to dive into this, raise your hand and, I'll get a hold of you and we'll figure it out, but I want to make sure everybody has the chance to weigh in if they have a
I know
special.
Sam does want to address those big issues of
Yeah.
what's the impact on our
I
long-term
would
housing
love to
and our
see.
rental.
That
I
would
just
be,
don't know when the right time is and how Sam gets in there and gets that data.
I think it's now, and Sam
now.
comes to me and says, hey, can you tell me what this looks like for the last 8 months? And what, how do we project it going forward? That's the discussion we can have with Sam. And
So just a
let's-
clarifying
let's do it.
question. I didn't even know that so I'm a little bit out of the loop because I've just been kind of waiting on like the ordinance and everything to be resolved. I didn't even realize data was being collected this whole time. So
Oh,
has,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. So I thought we were still waiting to do anything. And so frankly, I'm kind of happy to hear that data was being, I was like, man, we're really getting down to the final hour for this year's budget. So that's good I'm glad that things have been moving. I thought there hadn't been any
Totally.
movement, so
Yeah, no, they've made good progress. There's some holes in it and we got to go plug the holes.
okay.
And I would say, just on that, like at a certain point, whenever you get your head around the like handoff of how they give you data, if you want to like send me a CSV of the just giant dump, like I'm sure that's like a bone I'd love to chew on for a while. But again, I don't want that to be but just whenever you get to that logical point or an API, I don't quite know what they're going to do, but whatever makes sense, that's simple.
Yep, I can do that, Nathan. That's no problem. Okay, so
Thank you.
that's all I have.
Thank you. That's a lot, though.
Thank
And
you.
that's helpful. And again, deep gratitude to you
No
for
problem, no
for
problem.
digging
Very
in.
much.
Yeah, deep gratitude. Okay, that brings us to the last item on the agenda, new or other business. Since we have Sam, anything critical you want to mention from the MRVPD, Sam?
Only thing outside of what I've already talked about tonight, which concerns Warren, would be I submitted that bike and pedestrian grant application for the first segment of the Matter Valley Active Transportation Corridor. So submitted it's like a $2 million grant request for a path that would go from Ellen Lane to Riverside Park. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we hear good news on that. I don't know when the announcement will be made. I imagine like late summer, early fall. So if that is funded, it will be funded through the same program that the Sugarbush Access Road path was. So if we get a yes in about 3 to 4 years' time, we could expect to see that path constructed, which would be super cool. Be like the first segment of that larger kind of valley-wide project. So that's really all I have though, outside of what we've already discussed tonight.
Super cool.
It's nice,
Sam,
it's nice to see, oh, sorry, Adam, you go ahead, I've been talking.
Sam, does that mean that the active transit corridor was approved by VTrans prior to going for the grant, or is
It
that
it has not been, or I have not been notified that they've finished their review. Let's just say that I was thinking we would have their feedback by the end of June. So likely they're still looking through. We'll just have to incorporate whatever feedback that they give us. It won't be like rejected, I wouldn't imagine. I think worst case scenario, the town of Warren kind of like gave the study their blessing, and if we have to incorporate feedback, they would essentially have to like do that again.
excellent? So it's just in the approval process specifically for phase one, not like the whole path.
It's the scoping study for the whole path. So more
Yeah.
than likely, because this is such a large project, it didn't go through the typical VTrans process. So there will likely, especially for anything north of Moortown, we'll most likely have to do a deeper dive as far as scoping goes because we did like a very cursory overview of Moortown to Middlesex. So this is kind of approving the concept with the understanding that it's such a large project that we'll also have to do more like boots on the ground analysis.
Mhm.
Um, but it is looking at the whole corridor.
Nice.
Mhm.
But, I mean, Sam, isn't it true that the select board voted to, voted some serious funds after this, right?
That is true. And
Like
so
$400,000 type of money. So, yeah, I mean, that's a big step.
yes, huge step. Um, just clarifying that like if VTrans has a bunch of comments that we'll have to
Yeah.
like have it like I mean not adopted, but like re-endorsed, I guess you could say.
Uh,
Yeah, it's a big step, it was a lot of money. I would say that, although the MRVPD is giving huge support to Waitsfield, there's a lot of projects the staff is doing for Warren, whether it's that Sugar Bush
Yes,
access
thank
path,
you.
whether it's this active transit corridor, just a lot, whether it's the NDA, and now the house, and now the short-term rental, when we're.
Yeah.
So,
Nice work.
yeah, and of course, the work in Waitsfield will, benefits the whole valley, including Warren too, so, it's really, thank
Yeah.
you, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah,
Thank
no
Joshua
worries.
too.
I will. I'll pass it along. My pleasure.
Please
And the
do.
garage site, and support on the housing on the
Yeah.
garage site too, so, lots of good stuff, thank you, Sam.
Yeah,
So,
thank you guys.
last thing is, anybody have any questions about Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission?
Anything exciting going on? Oh, yeah, we gotta get,
We
we gotta get Christian Myers, is he coming to talk to us?
No, we're getting Nikki
Oh,
in
Nick-
September.
Nick in
Christian's
September.
not part,
Good.
Nikki.
Bring in the experts.
Nikki and
Okay.
Brian are
The
coming
big
in.
excitement now is.
And I've got to see if I can't get the Conservation
Blake?
Commission and the Select Board to join us, get them involved to see what. To me, it's somewhat a specified kind of thing with this new land plan that, each region is doing, Central Vermont Regional Planning is doing. A lot of that, I believe, came about because of the changes they wanted to make in Act 250. I don't know. I mean, I think there should be at least one person out of both the Select Board and the Conservation Commission that should join us, just to be aware of it. I don't know whether they're really into that kind of thing or
We
not,
can certainly
maybe.
invite them. It's a
But
great
yes,
idea.
that's one thing Camilla mentioned to me, and I will do that once I get my stuff back.
Is there more you'd like to talk about? Yeah, no, okay. Any other business to mention?
Anything else, Adam? Macon? Any last words?
Adam, if you're still at Yes tomorrow around 11:45, midnight,
Yeah.
just text me, I'll pick you up on the way home. Oh, and I won't be able to join the select board meeting tomorrow because my son will be in the Mad River Valley all-star baseball game for 12-year-olds. And if they win, they're going to state championship. So I think it's my civic duty to like put that on the record. And I encourage all of you. One thing, just one cool thing is that there's a operation that goes to Little League games at this stage in the tourney and actually live streams them with like a play-by-play announcer. So there are a lot of happy grandparents around the country right now, and it's really fun to see the kids this excited. So yeah, good stuff.
All right, way to go. That's great.
Take care.
With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'm so moved.
Second? I see Adam secondings.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned, 8:20 PM.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.